Welcome to This is Reviewable, episode 11, I think. This is the podcast where we review movies and TV shows and books and video games, and we talk about them and share recommendations. And anyway, that's the podcast. If that sounds familiar or it sounds like something you'd like, you're in the right place.
Welcome, everybody.
Movie that we watched this week.
I watched Dream Scenario.
Yes, this is the 2023 movie that you maybe have seen a commercial for with Nicolas Cage, where everybody keeps seeing him in their dreams.
Spooky.
I'll go ahead and read the summary I wrote, and then you can start with what you liked. Everyone begins to have dreams about Nick Cage. They start out as innocuous but slowly evolve into nightmares, and this film follows his journey through the phenomenon and tracks his own mental state as public perception of him begins to turn. What'd you like?
Michael Cera did a great job in this movie.
I forgot about him.
I just think he's one of those actors that's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
That I don't ever think about him, but he did a great job.
And he was in Barbie this year, too.
Yeah.
It's just two really funny little quirky side roles for him.
So during the movie, when he's kind of becoming famous and he's thinking about working with like this marketing group who Michael Cera works for, they have this idea. Nick Cage comes to, what's his name in the movie?
Okay, let's just see here. Paul Matthews.
Yeah. So in the movie, Paul goes to this marketing group because he kind of wants to make money. He wants to write a book. The marketing group is like, so we have these really great ideas and Sprite wants to work with you. Imagine if you could market Sprite in people's dreams. And I thought that the whole Sprite concept was just so funny.
Yeah, they really tried to get him to say yes to Sprite.
To work with Sprite. Yeah. And then in that same meeting, they're like, what if you could get into Obama's dreams? Obama.
Well, they weren't talking about him getting into people's dreams, were
No,
they?
but they were like, Obama was the one person.
Okay.
And I just thought that whole concept was so funny in the movie.
Yeah. The editing is really good, and the cinematography feels kind of old.
Yeah.
Like, it makes the movie feel a little older, but in a good way. There's a lot of very cozy lighting, I noticed. I really like that.
We thought that it was filmed in Vermont, and I looked it up, and it was filmed in Toronto.
Yeah.
And they just capture fall perfectly in some of this.
It looks really nice.
I will say there's one scene at the very end of the movie where I felt like the editing visually of like the colors was a little bit off. Where like they really tried to enhance the red leaves, and it enhanced the red on their faces a bit too much. And that I noticed that and it bothered me. That's all.
I think there might have been a reason for that. Kind of spoilery if I say why. So I'm gonna just touch on what I liked about the editing. Like they use the editing to tell the story, which I'm always a fan of when movies do stuff like that. An example is there's a point where he's in a hotel and he has a bandage on his head, and then it cuts and it kind of does this like weird little VCR rewind effect where like the edges of the screen get kind of blurry and you can tell that it's like this happened in the past. And then it shows how he's sitting at a table and then a light fixture falls down and smacks him in the head and his head starts bleeding. And then it does that little cut thing and he's back in the hotel and you're like, oh, that's how he got the bandage on his head. So there's a lot of examples of this style of editing where it explains things and tells you the story in a very visual and like creative way. I'm a big fan of when movies do things like that. It also, like, that sort of effect also adds to the general feeling in this movie of how it feels like a little bit otherworldly, and it ties in with people are seeing him in his dreams. There's a lot of stuff going on that you see that's not actually happening. So it adds to the mystique, I guess, of the movie and the situations that are in the movie. I also thought it was pretty funny. I will say, I've watched a couple of reviews of this movie, and some of the people are calling this like the funniest movie of the year.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I very much disagree with that. Like,
Barbie was way funnier than this.
that's right, Barbie. I was trying to think of the comedies that we've seen that came out this year. I couldn't think of any. Yeah, you're right. Barbie is funnier than this. This is not like a laugh a minute at
Mm-mm.
all. Like, I'd say this is more thought provoking than it is funny.
No Hard Feelings is funnier.
I haven't seen that.
Cocaine Bear came out in 2023.
Okay.
We didn't see that.
Yeah.
Murder Mystery 2 came out. I mean,
this is it? Did you just search comedy movies?
this said popular movie. Okay. Best. Let's see what this says. American Fiction, The Holdovers.
Oh, I wanted to see The Holdovers. We didn't get to that.
Next Goal Wins.
Okay.
But that movie for sure had to have been funnier than this
It
one.
didn't review that well.
Really?
Yeah.
Barbie.
Yeah.
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I wouldn't say that's really a comedy.
Uh-huh.
Bottoms, Joyride, No Hard Feelings, Murder Mystery 2, Magic Mike, Last Dance, 80 for Brady.
Dang, it's been a really weak comedy year.
Yeah, Man Called Otto, which...
Okay, I guess, you know what? Fine. This is in the top 2 comedy movies, I guess, I saw of 2023, but, like...
Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, we didn't see.
So I guess this makes my top 2, but only by a technicality, because apparently I only saw 2 comedies that released in 2023. But it's not very funny, I don't think. It's got funny parts.
The humor's awkward, in my opinion. That's like one of my dislikes, is that I felt like some of the dialogue was weird, especially like between Paul and his wife.
I didn't mind it.
Like, I felt like they weren't even married for a lot of it.
I think
And like,
that,
I think that has to do with them
Yeah.
probably finding each other later in life and like being quote unquote, they weren't old, but like older. I just didn't really feel like they were
no, they weren't that.
in love with each other.
No. But it makes sense, though, given what happens in the story.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought like, especially like Paul and his wife, like their dialogue was weird.
I didn't mind it.
Anyways, what else did you like?
I think it does have something interesting to say, or at the very least, it's thought provoking. And it's thought provoking enough to stimulate conversation and a rewatch for me.
Really?
I'll watch it again because I think there's enough to dig into here that's interesting. And then
Well, I think it definitely has something to say about like flash fame right now, of like how like people on the internet get super famous and then super harassed and then just drop off the face of the earth.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. My mind went in a totally different direction.
What did you think of?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
But
Fine.
the last thing that I liked about it was this is maybe the best I've seen Nicolas Cage act.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it.
More than the Unbearable?
Oh yeah.
I liked that one way better than this.
Because in that one he's literally just playing like a caricature version of himself.
I just don't think I liked this movie that much.
I thought he did a really good job in this movie. Very believable as this sort of professor who he's like facing a midlife crisis kind of, and he just wants to be liked by everybody and ends up having really no one like him.
I just didn't think he was a very compelling character. I just didn't like him as a character.
You didn't like him as a person?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
I just felt like he was very self-centered and like didn't see people's point of view and was just kind of narcissistic. Especially like that video that he made.
uh-huh.
He wanted a certain, with the fame that he got, he wanted a certain thing. He wanted to write his book. But like, why hadn't he been writing his book this whole time? Right? And like his wife even says that, like, sure, but then you actually have to write the thing, you know? I just think he's a very self-centered, no phones at the table unless my phone rings.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about how my fame is affecting you kids unless I get to talk about it, because it's something that really affected his kids, like especially the older daughter. I think she's in like high school, and that's awkward. I don't know. Nope, but we can't talk about it at the dinner table because we're talking negatively about me.
I think he was just sick of it. at that point.
Sure, but he still needs to listen to how it's affecting his daughter, I feel like.
Yeah, but from his daughters, it was always the same thing that they were saying. My friend had a dream where you killed him and ate him.
Din din time.
Time for Micah's din din. So, like, his daughters weren't bringing anything constructive to the conversation at all.
They're teenagers.
Yeah.
Or, in the case of the younger one, a preteen.
I think he was just fed up with all the negativity, and then that he didn't want to hear it at that point.
Okay, but I don't think it's fair of him to take that out on his daughters. Like,
he doesn't really take it out on them.
We're not talking about this. I just made this new rule and you already broke it, even though she quote unquote broke the rule before it was a rule. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but didn't he say, like, can we please not talk about this at the dinner table? And then she said something, and then he said, you just broke the rule. Didn't he say that?
I just don't think it's very fair.
Yeah.
I just think that's a very selfish thing to do.
I don't think that really any of the characters in this movie are likable, including the daughters, including the wife, including all of his friends, including him,
except including
for
Cera.
Including his students. Yeah, Michael Cera is likable. Everybody in this movie is kind of sucky.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point of this movie. It's like sort of shining a light or a mirror. It's holding up a mirror, and it's like, hey, look, this is how you would react, or this is how your family would react if it was happening to you. This is how you would react if it was happening to you. This is how the people around you might react if it was happening to you. And look at it. Doesn't it kind of suck on all sides? That's kind of what I took away from this. But I'll get to that, I guess, in more detail in a second. Okay, dislikes.
It also bothered me that his wife never had his back.
I wrote that down too. Yeah.
They never felt like a team. And maybe that also led into me not liking their dynamic. But from the moment things started, she never had his back.
She was against him in every situation.
It's not like I have my opinion about this. It was I don't know. It was always just I don't like it. And how would you explain it?
She was self-centered too. She wanted things to go back to normal, and she didn't care how he was feeling, or the threats he was receiving, or the graffiti that they put on his car, or the harassment that he was,
It was always his fault.
They told him he's not allowed to teach anymore because the students are feeling uncomfortable. And she's like, well, if they're feeling uncomfortable or whatever. She refused to see his point of view, kicked him onto the couch.
That was actually that I thought was kind of funny.
Really?
She kicks him onto the couch. I just thought that this was the perfect marital petty thing. She kicks him onto the couch, and the way that the house is set up, he's in, let's just say, the sitting room, and then the next room is the entryway with the stairs attached to it.
Yeah.
And so he's in a separate room, and she's gonna go up the stairs to go to bed, and he's setting up his bed, whatever, and she walks over, all the lights are connected to this one light switch, and she's getting ready to walk up the stairs and turns off the lights and keeps going. And he's like, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was the perfect petty marital moment. Of course she's going to turn off the lights. She's mad at you,
Yeah.
I just thought that they captured that perfectly.
Yeah. But do you remember why she was mad at him?
Mm-mm.
She's pressuring him to make an apology video. Even though at this point, people are having nightmares, right, about him, but he has not done anything to these people, and they're having nightmares. And she's like,
that's the moment that she said.
And she's like, you should make an apology video, and he's like, why? I haven't done anything. I haven't done it. Why should I apologize about something that I'm not actually doing? And then she keeps pressing it, and he's like, would you freaking stop it?
Yeah.
And then he's kicked onto the couch. So that's an example of her just taking the side of anyone but him.
But don't you think, I think that fight, her reaction to that is because of where she picked him up from.
Again, that was not his fault.
Sure. But she's allowed to have a reaction to that. Not that reaction. I don't think she had a good reaction, but she's allowed to voice her feelings.
She's allowed to voice her feelings, but in this case, her feelings are wrong. Like he doesn't owe these people an apology because he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
I completely disagree with her. Yeah, I agree. The wife did not have his back. That was a dislike for me too. It seemed like someone should have had his back. But there was literally no one in the movie that did.
It was funny also because it seems like he has society friends, quote unquote, that he like wants to be friends with.
Yeah.
And then like kind of has a chance to be friends with them, but like it's already on the downhill. His dream stuff.
Yeah.
And then he goes over to his friend's house and his friend is like, my wife doesn't want to see you and you need to go do this. And like he just gets screwed over.
Yeah.
For like something that's 100% not his fault. Yeah. The whole concept of being inside someone's dream, that's not his fault.
Not your fault. I wonder, I was trying to think of how I would react. Because like these dreams, I've had dreams with people in them before, and I've woken up like mad at the person for whatever happened in the dream, but then I get over it because I'm like, that wasn't real.
I don't know that it's always that easy.
Yeah, I'm saying like something like this where he's murdering them.
Yeah.
And it's a scary, traumatic dream. I don't know how I would react in that scenario because like
if you were Paul or if
I was the dreamer. Okay. Because like my logical brain would tell me that didn't really happen, but then my lizard brain would be like, yeah, but he killed you.
And he did.
He killed you a bunch of times in your dream, and I'd be like, oh shoot, you're right. I don't think he's really gonna do that, but what if he does?
Yeah, Lizzie, you right.
Yeah. So I don't know how I would react. This is why I think it's interesting to think about, or one of the reasons I think it's interesting to think about. But do you have any other dislikes that you wrote?
I felt like it was unresolved at the end.
Yeah, I put that too.
And I didn't like that. It was unresolved in a way that I didn't like.
Yeah, normally I kind of like ambiguous endings. Like you didn't like the way 3 Billboards ended. I actually thought it was perfect for that movie. This one I did not think was perfect.
Did I say I didn't like the ending?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you don't know really what's going to happen.
That's true. This one is different in my opinion. It felt like they cut the movie off. Like
maybe there was another scene.
Or something. Yeah. To explain more. And in like 3 Billboards, compared to this, I like that ending.
Yeah. Well, I've got some things I want to talk about. Some of them are kind of spoilery.
So do you want to rate it?
Yeah, let's rate it.
Okay.
So I'm going to give this, I'm a little torn. I think I want to give this 7 arrows to the neck out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it was teetering on the 6.5 to 7 border, but I think I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's like it looks good. It's very competently made. I think there's interesting stuff to unpack, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would rate this 6 EDs.
That's not what happened though.
Well, I don't know. It got skipped.
Yeah. Okay, so we were watching this movie with some friends, and there's a part where some naughty things are starting to happen, and our friends started skipping through it, and then we were like, wait, we don't know what happened.
You told me that's what happened.
No, I looked it up, and it's like premature.
Yeah, ED.
I thought that was, you can't get it up, ED. Isn't that what ED is? One of us is going to look foolish.
Oh. So there's ED and PE.
What's PE? Premature. Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to give myself a new rating. So I'm going to rate this 6 little girls floating through the air.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Spoilers ahead.
Yeah. From this point on, we're going to talk about some things in detail. Okay, so where I thought that this movie was leading when you were talking about like Insta celebrities or whatever, I thought this movie was about cancel culture. I mean, like they touch on that kind of heavily at the end of the movie, but I guess more broadly, like public perception of people, and it's like almost like a cautionary tale of how public perception can work. There's a point where he writes his book and he titles it Dream Scenario, right? And they changed the title of the book. He's like doing the book tour in France, and they change it to I Am Your Nightmare.
Or that's the translation.
Oh, okay.
They translated his book into French, and then they renamed it in French.
Yeah, so it goes from dream scenario to I am your nightmare. It's pretty funny. He's like, well, that's okay, I guess. But I thought that kind of felt like a wink to the audience because you have somebody here who, he becomes a celebrity overnight, and people like him at first, and then some people love him. There's a turning point that goes on that happens where people start to not like him all of a sudden, and he can't control it, and it just starts snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. And to me, that title is like the creators of the film saying, like, this could happen to you. Like, you could get famous, and then one video that someone takes of you where you're doing something that someone else doesn't approve of, and it gets spread around, and everybody starts to hate on you, and
I
everyone
just think
starts to
that's
hate
what
you.
the internet is.
Yeah, but it's like this movie is like, look at this guy. Did he really do anything wrong? Does he really deserve to be hated like this? So is that how you're treating people as well? Because like this could be you, and this would be your nightmare, So I thought that was kind of a clever way of like pointing at the audience and being like, how do you treat people that you see on the internet that you don't know the whole story?
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I was just giving you if you had anything else.
The other thing that I liked that is kind of a spoiler, I liked the whole idea of a dream bracelet.
Yeah.
And that they were advertising in
Yeah.
people's dreams.
That was pretty funny.
That whole idea
Yeah.
in this movie I thought was brilliant, honestly. It was so funny and so clever.
Yeah.
Just how can we market this?
Yeah.
And someone was like, let's make money and advertise in people's dreams.
Yeah.
And then one of like the dream influencers comes into his dream. He starts giving his pitch and he goes, let me just do that again. And keeps doing it again because nobody knows.
Because he can.
Because he can.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was really funny too. That's actually, I have a little theory, okay? And it's tied to that dream bracelet. So at a certain point, they create this bracelet because they're so fascinated by this phenomenon that everybody saw the same dude in their dreams, and he was always doing a similar thing. Like at first he was just a bystander,
passive bystander.
Just watching
to some gruesome thing happening, and he never helped. And then it turned into him being the killer.
Yeah, and so like they were so fascinated that this happened that scientists looked into what's going on, and they were able to create this bracelet that you can wear, and you're able to enter people's dreams on purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why Mike is talking about dream influencers, because then they can advertise in dreams or whatever. So this is my theory, okay? It seems like people have always been able to enter each other's dreams. This is implied when they invent the bracelet, and people can enter each other's dreams at will. Maybe what happened is there was a cascading effect where one person had a dream of him becoming a killer, and then they subconsciously entered another person's dream and brought their projection of him into that other person's dream. And that's why this next person sees him as a killer. And then they invade someone else's dream, and pretty soon everybody...
You're saying you believe this?
This is my theory about maybe this is how the mechanics of this whole thing works.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they're just bringing their projection of him along and infecting everybody else's mind. Okay. And that's why everyone is seeing, him as a killer. Yeah. But I think it's just like a smart commentary on how do you perceive people? Do you just go along with what everybody else sees, or are you more curious to understand the full picture? And maybe don't rush to judgment until you know enough. Yeah. Yeah. So I liked it.
Oh, okay.
Is the upshot for me.
All right. The next thing we're going to talk about, Ted Lasso season 3.
Mm-hmm. Ted is still a coach. Keely is still herself. Roy is still grumpy. Jamie is changing, and he doesn't feel the same. Everybody's changing, and I don't feel the same. Nate is an ass, and he's in charge of West Ham. Can Ted win the league, or will his title hopes become... Oh, I messed that up. Can Ted win the league, or will his title hopes become beleaguered? Boo. Spoilers ahead, but not major ones. Okay, that's my. I mean, you've probably heard of this show already. Do we need to give the main premise of it?
Just an American football coach moves to England
And coaches in the Premier League.
and coaches European football.
Yeah,
soccer.
in England, in the English league.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And he had no idea how to coach European football.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there were some pretty big character development and character arcs in this season.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Here's the thing. We actually finished this, I don't know, like a month or more ago. And
I just rewatched it though.
Yeah, Micah has rewatched all of it because she couldn't remember it.
Like I watched.
So this is more fresh in your mind than it is in mine. But
Yeah.
I've had these notes for a while.
Oh, okay.
So
I mean, I watched the whole season except for the finale.
Yeah.
In like 3 days.
I mean, I remember Nate's arc. I remember Nate having an arc. I remember
Jamie's arc.
Jamie's arc has been going on since season 1, basically.
Yeah, but I think it was really good in this season.
Yeah. Roy doesn't really.
He has some epiphanies, but that's it.
Roy's main arc happened in season 1.
Yeah.
Keeley doesn't have any kind of arc. Freaking.
Ted has some.
Rebecca has an arc. Rebecca has an arc in season 1, I think. She kind of goes from being a villain to a friend.
Yeah.
Who else had an arc?
Ted realized some things.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Oi, Shem! That unicorn's gonna make a run for it! Yeah, it's too late. It's too late!
Well,
so that's something
there's
you
Colin.
liked? Yeah.
That's not really development. It's more of like a.
He's just a side story.
Character.
Yeah.
What were some things that you liked?
So there's some trademark touching Ted Lasso moments. That's kind of what this show. What's interesting about the show is the original concept was created when NBC got the rights to show the Premier League games in America, and Jason Sudeikis did this little like skit where he's in charge of Tottenham, and
Really?
Yeah, and like
also we're Tottenham fans, by the way, everybody.
Okay.
We're a Tottenham household.
I do like watching Tottenham. Tottenham this year has been really fun to watch.
Because when we went to England in spring of 2023, we went to a Tottenham game.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that they existed before. But then we went to a game and I was like, that's it. We're a Tottenham family.
Yeah. She learned some chants.
Yep.
She, swore some words.
Come on, you Spurs.
Yeah. So I'm not really a fan of any team. I'm sort of vaguely a fan of all the Italian teams.
Yeah.
But
like, we're a Tottenham family.
But Tottenham's been so freaking fun to watch this year. So I'm kind of a fan of them this year. Anyway, we're getting off track.
Sorry.
But yeah, so he coaches Tottenham in this skit, and he's just kind of an idiot.
Just an American, has no idea about soccer,
and doesn't really care.
Yeah.
To learn that much. It's just funny.
Mm-hmm.
And like they call him a wanker, and that's the nickname that they come up for him in the skit.
Okay.
And the guy's like, "Do you know what it means?" And he's like, "I think it just means great." Someone who will push you, but someone who likes to be alone with his thoughts. He's just like this clueless kind of dick, in the skit. And they took this skit and they turned it into a show. And I remember seeing the ads for the show. This happened, by the way, like when I was in high school. This skit came out.
It was really funny. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about it more than that, but
yeah,
go look up the skit. It's funny.
But when I saw that they were coming out with this show, I think it was like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, the first season came out. I was like, oh, how are they
2020.
How are they going to make that into a whole show? And they ended up going in a different direction completely than the skit, where Ted is this actually really inspiring person. And so there's a lot of super touching moments where, he's not really a soccer coach, but he's a person coach, and he can help these people become better versions of themselves. So it's got a lot of heart, and this season has a decent amount of those moments, and I liked that.
Yeah.
What's something you liked?
Um, I was keeping a list in my head
Mm-hmm.
of my favorite quotes from the season,
Mm-hmm.
and then today happened, and I forgot most of them.
Oh, nice.
But I wrote some of them down, so these are some of my favorites.
You saw the finale?
I didn't watch the finale.
Oh, bummer.
But I remember it from before.
Okay.
It was all the other stuff that I didn't remember. Okay, these are some of my favorite quotes. It's just poopy.
Yeah, that's good.
Hello, we're not open for another half hour. Would you care to not wait here? There's one. Okay. Tulip?
Yeah.
No, just one tulip. The whole field would be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Roy talking about the best way to get back to a bully. Do you remember this part?
It's like insanely violent.
So violent.
Yeah.
The best time to attack someone is statistically at 4 a.m. because that's the time that they're least likely to expect it. So you get a rope and you paint it red, and then you show up at their house and you start hitting them with this rope over and over and over again. And it's very in detail, and it's really funny the way that he describes it
because they
it's
think
so dark.
they think they're bleeding because of the rope.
The red paint, yeah. There were other ones, but I forgot them all.
Okay.
So my favorite one is it's just poopy.
Yeah. Yeah, that segues nicely into something that I liked. Jamie's like my favorite character now.
Yeah.
In the whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. You really hated him in season 1 too.
Yeah.
And he just flips it all on its head. His budding friendship with Roy is also very endearing and fun.
Mm-hmm.
This season is still, I put mostly funny in parentheses.
There is kind of some political stuff that's talked about.
Yeah, like I think the writing, when it's meant to be funny, is funny most of the time in this season, but there's like a pretty large percentage of the jokes that didn't land for me. Like I'd say that it was like a 60-40 on what lands and what doesn't for this season. So I guess like that's, technically mostly 60% is more than half, but
yeah,
like that's still a large number of jokes that I just kind of rolled my eyes at.
Yeah.
I'll get into specific examples. I think I have a couple. There's also some good production value on things like the stadiums. The stadiums all look and feel like they should. When they like cut to the talk shows and you see the pundits talking, that all looks great. It looks how it actually looks if you're watching the Premier League and you're watching the pregame and they're talking about the lineups and all that.
Which the Premier League is the league in
England. Top league in England, yeah. So that all looks right. They're using the right balls. They're using the right uniforms. I really like the attention to detail on stuff like that.
But...
Well, are we talking about dislikes now?
No. But... the soccer play is not great.
No, it actually sucks.
And there's one specific moment...
One?
That I remember.
Okay.
I just rewatched this. There's one specific moment where I can these are all actors. This is mostly a talking show. It's not really about football. It's about the team. It's about the people and all that.
Yeah.
There's one specific part where Jamie kicks the ball. It's episode 11, where Jamie kicks the ball. You hear the sound of him kicking it. His body doesn't move. There's no recoil. That is, obviously the soccer is not great, but that is the one specific moment where I was like, you didn't even try.
Yeah. I wrote, even though I just praised the attention to detail as far as the technical side of the game is concerned, they go and F it up with bad talk show dialogue and horrible soccer choreography. None, in my opinion, like little to none of it looks real. Like the game is not moving as fast as it should. Like it doesn't even look as good as a high school game.
Really?
Like the ball is not being moved fast. People have way too much time to collect the ball and turn and, pick their heads up for passes. Like the goals that they show are ridiculous. Yeah. Like the defense is like split open for no reason at all. The keepers are making like the worst mistakes I've ever seen. Like it just like the offsides stuff. There's a point where like it's a big moment because Ted's the only one somehow that saw that this goal was offsides, even though like it smelled like fish from the start. Like and it's this thing that Ted doesn't understand the rules of the game, and he's the only one that saw that this was offsides. But it's like the most blatant offside. That goal would never count I've ever seen. So like if you're a soccer fan, don't expect to see realistic choreography in this show, because they really dropped the ball. No pun intended. They really dropped the ball on it. And there's plenty of shows and movies that do sports choreography well. I'm thinking of Miracle, the hockey one.
Oh yeah.
Came out how many years ago?
But you don't know that much about hockey, anyways.
No, but I know I like people
It's
like
in the
that.
90s.
People like that because they put effort into it.
Yeah.
They made sure it looked good.
90s or 80s, I can't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, like it's been done well. You can do sports scenes well.
Well, it's not like they didn't have the budget for it.
No, because like they got everything else right.
Yeah.
It all looks great, except when they actually start playing, and it looks horrible after that.
But I also think it's not really a soccer show. It's a people show.
Yeah, but when there's that many soccer scenes and that many of them suck, like I'm gonna knock it for
That's fair.
For that reason. Are we moving fully on to dislikes right now? No. You still got more stuff you liked?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked. There's a character in the show that comes out as gay.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that story.
Okay.
I liked that whole. I didn't think it was woke or anything like that. I feel like this has to be something that is not uncommon.
Oh yeah, there's no way it's uncommon, but I think it still is very like stigmatized.
I'm sure it is
in professional sports.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So I liked that they talked about it, and I thought that they did a really good job of it.
Like I cannot think of an openly gay soccer player, and that's impossible. There has to be at least one, But yeah.
So I liked that whole story.
It's very current, I think.
And the character that comes out as gay, his best friend, is the first one to find out. And his friend is upset. And you are led to believe that it's because his friend is gay. But he's upset because his friend didn't feel like... The friend that was upset because he felt like the gay guy didn't trust him enough with the information. And that's why he was upset. And I felt like it showed a realistic reaction.
Yeah.
People are allowed to react.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you like?
Let's see. Nate's arc is pretty good.
Yeah.
That was the last thing that I had in my like section.
I also liked the international break.
Yeah, that episode. Was hilarious. Yeah.
A question that I had, this is not a like nor dislike. You've mentioned before to me that Mexico has a lot of soccer players, but they won't ever send them to Europe to get developed. Mm-hmm. So how do you think Danny Rojas is there?
No, it can happen. It's just rare.
Okay.
Because the way that the Mexican league is set up, they try to make it as comfortable for players as they can so that they don't leave, because that ruins the product. It's a big business in Mexico. Mm-hmm. They sell out lots of stadiums. They sell lots of tickets, lots of merchandise, whatever. So when these Mexican kids are coming up, they get scouted by a Mexican team because they're from Mexico, and then they sign contracts, right? And they get paid. They don't even really get paid that well. It's like comparatively to like the players in Europe, they get paid maybe a couple $100,000 a year.
That's it.
But like you got to consider in the MLS, like the low end of payment is like $50,000 a year. So it's much easier for those players to say, no, I'd rather go take my chances in Europe. But in Mexico, they're like, okay, you've come from nothing, and now all of a sudden you're making $200,000, $300,000 a year. Yeah. And in Mexico, that goes a really long way. Fair. So they kind of feel handcuffed. And then another thing that happens is their contracts are written in a way where it's insanely expensive for a European team to buy the player out of their contract. And since they're playing in Mexico, which, like, I'm not trying to be offensive, but it's not a very strong league compared to the leagues in Europe. So if you're interested in a player, you're not really likely to be willing to spend like 80 million to get him out of his contract just to see if he can make it in Europe.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about that.
But like there are some Mexicans that make it over, and there are a couple playing in Europe right now.
Are you moving on to dislikes?
If you're ready, yeah. Okay. This kind of goes hand in hand with me hating the soccer choreography, but I mentioned that like the pundit studios look really good and they look right, but like the actual way that they're talking to each other is not how pundits would talk to each other. And there's one specific example. So they're talking about Rebecca and her ex-husband, and
Rebecca is the owner of the club.
Yeah. Like this sort of a topic would not be something that you're talking about before a game.
But it also has to move the storyline.
Yes, I understand that. But then they get Thierry Henry, the French guy, the black French guy, who's on, you know who I'm talking about.
On the show?
Yeah, he comes on a couple of times and he's like, I think that Rebecca should have stayed with Rupert. They were a power couple. What? Like no pundit on earth would say anything like that, especially not him. Like he's very, very known for being super technical, and he'll like analyze plays because he was a former player and a really, really good one.
Yeah.
And he'll like analyze what's happening and why they were able to score and why this pass was able to happen. Okay. That's what he's known for. He would never say anything like that.
But I don't know that.
Yeah, but I do. And so, like, when I see that...
do you think that you're the average viewer, or am I the average viewer?
I think that probably a lot of people in England are watching this show.
But in America?
In America, I'm sure that... I'm willing to bet that a large percentage of the people that first adopted this show were people that already watched soccer.
So you think you are the average viewer? You think you are the target audience?
I think I'm part of a big demographic that watches this show.
Okay.
Yes. Because, like, the people that knew about Ted Lasso were Premier League fans.
Yeah, because initially you were the target audience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, again, like, attention to detail is great all up until the writing and the choreography, and then it's not great anymore. And that's very disappointing to me. Okay, your turn.
I didn't have a ton of dislikes.
Oh, really?
I mean, I didn't love the way that the show ended.
Okay.
But we can get into that later.
Okay.
I know you're going to bring this up, and I agree with you, so I'm going to bring it up first.
Okay.
The amount of time that they spend on Keeley is obnoxious. Yeah. I wish that they would have spent more time on some of the other characters.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's all that really needs to be said.
No, there's another thing.
What?
So, I'm not a fan. I don't like perfect characters. Keeley is a perfect character. Especially, and it's okay if she has like a very small supportive role like she did in season 1 and season 2. But when you spend a ton of time on her, she needs to have some flaws. She needs to make some mistakes for her to be compelling. She doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
Like there's something that happens that's awkward for her, but the show, and really it's not a mistake that she made. And the show is leading you to think, no, she's not really at fault here. She's just a victim of circumstance. And she
is.
Yeah, but my point is she's still perfect. She still hasn't messed up. Love Keeley. There's nothing not to love. She's just boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of when shows do that. And then the last thing I put was just some of the jokes are like the writing just feels kind of lazy, like not that funny. A lot of the jokes in this season. The one that stood out to me was, do you remember the Joe Rogan joke at the very beginning? So she takes a phone, she's on the phone, and she's like, no, I don't think it would be interesting for me to talk about how it's difficult to be a woman CEO. F you, Joe Rogan. And then hangs up the phone. If that joke sounds funny to you, I'm happy for you, I guess. But like there's nothing clever about that. It's complete low-hanging fruit. The writer's own personal feelings about Joe Rogan bleeding onto the page and them just scribbling out a joke. But not, it feels like it was not run by anybody because it's not clever at all.
Yeah.
If you come up with a clever joke, I'm here for it. But like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff like that just kind of gets shoehorned in, where they're trying to take jabs at people and take jabs at things and ideas, and it's just kind of sloppily written. So that was my last point.
Okay. So what would you rate this?
I'm gonna give it 6.5 Dutch canals out of 10 for this season.
That's way lower than I thought you would do.
There was enough that was disappointing about this season that I don't think it really deserves much higher. But there was enough redeeming about it that it doesn't deserve lower. So
okay. Well, I'm gonna rate this 8.
Okay.
It's just poopy out of 10.
Coach. Yeah, Jamie.
I'm surrounded by poopy.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Nice.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I watched this movie. I know that I'm supposed to watch it this week, but I had to watch Ted Lasso again. But Braden was out of town a couple of weeks ago, and I was so bored that I took myself to the movies. And I was the only person in the movie theater, and I saw the Hunger Games movie.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Why does it, the Hunger Games, why does it always have to be snakes?
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
The Hunger Games movie, Slithery Boys.
Yeah. It's one of these is the correct subtitle.
Hunger Games, Snake Jazz.
But yeah, there you go.
Okay. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And so this movie...
Is this movie as good as that one teenage girl thought it was?
No, we already talked about this.
Okay.
Okay. So this movie is based on a book, and it's like a prequel to the Hunger Games. And so it takes place in a dystopian world of Panem during the 10th annual Hunger Games. It follows the story of Coriolanus. Can't even say it.
I pointed out that this guy's name has anus in it. What was she thinking?
I don't know. Coriolanus. Oh, yeah, there it is. Coriolanus Snow.
And it's literally spelled that way, too. It's spelled anus.
Anus, yeah. I can't even... I'm going to call him Corio, because that's what they call him in the book as a pet name.
Just call him Anus Snow.
Oh my gosh, I can't do it.
Please? For me?
No.
Ugh.
Anus Snow, who later becomes the tyrannical President Snow depicted in the original series.
Tyrannosaur?
Yeah.
Nice.
So the show is basically about Anus Snow, and he's in his...
He's in his anus era.
This is where he becomes an anus.
Yeah, this is where he becomes an ass.
This is his...
This is his becoming an asshole.
No, this is his asshole origin story.
All right, well, remember to be an asshole. A real asshole.
Anus.
There you go.
Part 1.
Do you think that when he does Am I the Asshole videos, everybody automatically, before he says anything, they're like, yes?
But also
because of your name. Yeah.
Everyone just does asterisk anus.
Yeah.
Anus Snow. Anus Snow. Anus Snow. So this is about Corio, and he is in his last year of high school, and they have the first mentors of the Hunger Games. And he's a mentor, and he is a mentor for District 12. And
which is a district that he hates in the whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And this is why, pretty much.
Oh, I see.
So he is the mentor for Lucy Gray Baird.
Okay.
What do they call him?
Ward?
Tribute?
Oh, yeah.
The name of his tribute is Lucy Gray Baird, and basically just it's them coming up with the whole idea of, like, you can see where the Hunger Games got from this point to the movies.
Okay.
Or the books.
Yeah.
You know?
And because it was so nice before.
What do you mean?
Well, you implied that, like, it gets so much worse because when it gets to the Hunger Games books, we're in this horrible place, but it used to be really nice.
It didn't used to be a celebrity thing.
Yeah, but they were still freaking making kids
No,
kill
it
each
was
other.
horrible,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like they made these kids put on a show before making them kill each other.
Yeah.
It was just making them kill each other.
How kind.
Yeah. So I think that this show, the movie, I'm currently rereading the book. I read it a couple years
The
ago.
prequel one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Songbirds one. And
Micah just pulled the pin out of a grenade. That's the sound you just heard. We're gonna die. Luckily, it only goes off once this episode is done recording.
Corio is a sociopath.
Okay.
And they...
You think so?
Yeah. From the book, definitely.
Okay.
Where at some point Lucy Gray, she does her interview and she sings a song. She's really good at singing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's jealous of her. That she's getting more recognition than him. Even though she's going into the Hunger Games and she's gonna die.
Are you sure he's a sociopath and not like a narcissist?
I think it's both.
Okay.
But I don't know. And this show, like the movie goes through the Hunger Games, the aftermath, and then kind of you can see the path that he goes on to eventually become the president. I don't want to spoil too much. I think you guys should watch it and read the book, because I reread the books, the Hunger Game books, and they're actually not that bad.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like them.
Okay.
The movies, not so great.
All right.
But the books, pretty good. I would rate this movie in 8.5.
That's really high. This is a solid recommendation.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm trying to think of an 8.5.
Anuses.
Yeah, anuses.
Oh my word.
One beef that I had.
What photo am I gonna find for that? That's gonna be appropriate. This will be interesting.
Okay, maybe I should.
No, it's fine. Keep it.
Okay. In the beginning of the movie, Corio has this really pretty curly blonde hair.
Okay.
And then halfway through the movie, he shaves his head, and his hair is white. And then the rest of the movie, his hair is white, which I thought was
maybe he had a really scary dream about Nicolas Cage,
and it just scared him straight.
It turned his hair white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that his hair was a really pretty blonde, and I just thought it was interesting that throughout the movie his hair becomes more white, and I wonder if that was symbolic.
Well,
something.
He's got white hair in the freaking...
Well, he's super old. He's like 80 something.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, his name's not Snow for nothing.
I know. Snow lands on top.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Oh, and Tigress is in it, which she's kind of in the Hunger Games. You wouldn't know her, but... And...
Well, I read the first 2 books.
I think she's in book 3.
Okay.
And apparently they were cousins.
Her and Anus Snow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Done?
Yeah.
All right. I watched Rick and Morty season 7. This is my summary. It's season 7 of Rick and Morty, dude. You should know about this show by now. Sci-fi hijinks and dark existential humor. Wubba dub dub. And this one is the controversial one because, for those of you that don't know what happened, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty was accused of misconduct. Yeah. I don't think... Okay, we're going to try and stop saying the S word.
Well, it was SA, wasn't it?
Huh? Yeah, SA. Or something. Or harassment. He was accused of these things and was dropped from the network.
Was he not the voice of...
He was the voice of Rick and Morty and a lot of just the little voices that happened throughout the show, as well as the co-creator. And he was the guy that would get drunk during the improv sessions and just riff, and that's where a lot of their humor, a lot of their jokes came from. So he was let go controversially. You can look into it yourself, decide for yourself about whether you think it was just or not. But he was let go. So that's this season with the new voice actors, and it's been getting a lot of hate. People have...
Because he left. Because he's not a part of the show
because he's not
anymore.
there. And it does feel different, a little different. I'll get to like specifics in a second, but The voice replacements generally do a really good job, I think.
I didn't even notice a difference.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Like, I know people are saying like he sounds nothing like him. I don't think that's true. I think that this is still it still sounds just about right. It's missing the improv, which is a dislike that I have for this season.
Because
Well,
that's what makes Rick and Morty funny. Is
no,
those parts, right?
disagree.
Really?
I think so.
Well, I don't know.
Every season of Rick and Morty will have an improv episode, and they usually call it oh, it's like something cable. What is it called?
Oh, isn't it like
It's like Universal Cable. Dang it, Multiversal Cable, Interdimensional Cable. That's what it's called.
yeah.
So they'll have an improv episode where it's just a bunch of riffs that he did, and they turn it into a bunch of like little clips and jokes. I really like those episodes. I think they're really funny because a lot of them are just stupid, and it's nice to have like a refreshing kind of stupid episode to just dive into. What I really like about this show are like the dark jokes and
Existential.
the existential jokes, and they'll like set them up for a really long time for the punchline to just be something kind of depressing to think about.
Like the whole episode or like multiple episodes?
No, like sometimes the whole episode, but like sometimes it'll be like a 5 minute long joke or whatever, or they'll set it
Okay.
up at the beginning and pay it off at the end. An example is there's this whole scene of this guy growing up and um, getting through high school and like going to college and playing football and meeting his wife and overcoming cancer, and then eventually he owns a carpet store and he's like trying to reach for a carpet on the top of the rack, and then it falls and he falls and he breaks his neck and he dies, and it turns out it's a video game, and Morty has been impersonating this guy in the video game, and Morty wakes up and he's like, "What? Where's my wife? What's going on?" It's just like he basically spent an entire lifetime in this game, only to break his neck falling off of a ladder. That's what I love about this show, like those kind of jokes, and something that I liked about this, some of the episodes in this are like genuinely great. Like they feel like return to form for Rick and Morty, because I didn't really like season 5. I didn't really like season 6. I thought they were both just not that funny. And
you feel like they went back to their roots?
Yeah, for some of these episodes. There's 3 episodes that I think are genuinely great. So there's the Evil Morty episode. There's the last episode, the season finale, where they talk about fears and they dive into Morty and Rick's greatest fears. And then there's an episode that's like midway through this season, and it's the spaghetti episode. And I showed you a clip from this one. It starts with like one of my favorite cold opens that I've ever seen from Rick and Morty, and the episode is just incredibly strong, like the whole way through. It's like really freaking effed up and hilarious in the way that it's effed up, and it's so funny and it's thought provoking, and like the ending of it is hilarious too. So there's some episodes in this season that really give me hope for the future of this show, because I felt like 5 and 6 didn't really have that. They didn't really have a spaghetti episode. But the fact that
so you think that they're going to keep making seasons?
They are for sure.
Oh, okay.
There's more episodes that were ordered, so there's at least going to be one more season.
Okay.
But like that spaghetti episode by itself, if that's the only thing I got out of this season, would have been worth it, because it's one of my favorite episodes I've ever seen from this show. However, there are some absolute shit episodes in this season too. There's one where Rick just isn't even in the episode.
What?
It's awful. It sucks.
Wait, that's like the whole show is Rick and
yes. It's the iced tea episode, for those of you that may have watched this, so you can know which ones I hated. I hated that one. I thought that one was awful. The episode where Morty and Summer get merged together sucked. I hated that one.
Oh.
And then, yeah, the rest of the episodes are just kind of okay. So there's like, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. So there's 3 genuinely great ones, and then I'd say there's like 2 good ones. There's 2 shit ones, and then there's 3 mid ones. So the ratio of like I liked / I really liked to I hated / I didn't really like is 50-50 from this season. I'm a little bit more lenient towards Rick and Morty because like this show is very much not serialized, and by that I mean like most episodes are self-contained, but they'll throw in the odd like lore episode every once in a while. Like the Evil Morty one is a continuation of a story from a previous season.
Okay.
But most of it is just a self-contained thing.
Well, they have kind of an like who was that robot lady?
Robot lady.
Space.
Oh yeah. There's some serialization, but like most of the bulk of the episodes in this series, you can watch without any context. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm more lenient on this show because I've always seen it as just like a really funny, dark show.
Yeah.
And I got some really good, dark, funny episodes out of this season. So overall, I'd say I'm happy with it. So that's why I'm a little bit more lenient. I do think it sucks that Justin Roiland is gone for the simple fact that we don't get the improv episodes anymore. They do kind of an improv style episode in this season. It's just not as good because it feels like it was written and not improved, and it's just not the same.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this 6 extremely mixed bags out of 10. But I am optimistic for the future.
Okay.
So
do you think that this is our generation's show? Your generation's show?
it's one of them. It's definitely one of them. I mean, like, what else? Avatar. But we've also had The Office, right?
Yeah.
Or was that the previous generation?
No, that's yours. But that's like older than you mostly, but
yeah, I was pretty young when that started coming out.
yeah.
But I think we've got a couple.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the defining shows though of our generation for sure. Like yeah, I would say it's been very impactful.
Okay.
If you haven't looked into Rick and Morty at all yet, give it a try. It's not going to be for everybody because it is adult.
But it might grow on you. Like,
Yeah.
I think when we first met, I didn't like it at all. And then you were watching this season, and I was like annoyed that you weren't watching it. You didn't save it for me.
Yeah, you should watch some of these episodes. Some of them are very, very good.
Okay.
The whole spaghetti episode is really funny.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm optimistic about where it's gonna go.
Okay. Well, what are we watching this week?
Well, you're going on a trip.
I'll probably watch some throwaway movies on the plane.
You know what we could do? We could hit Justified. I'm wearing the hat and everything right now.
I guess we could get through Shoresy
Yeah, we could do that.
if we have time.
Right.
I mean, I think we definitely have some time to set aside for that.
Yeah. I mean, we're only 3 episodes away or something.
Yeah.
Should be easy.
All right. Well, if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Braden does a really good job of the YouTube videos. Honestly, that's probably the best platform to enjoy our show. And the handle is @thisisreviewable. We're also on TikTok and Instagram. Same handle, @thisisreviewable.
If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and comment. Drive up that participation, baby.
Yeah, but we appreciate you, everybody, and have a great week. Bye.